All right, you guys, we're going to keep moving here. So in the last tutorial, we focused on how to create the hair and eyebrows. So it was a nice, simple, straightforward technique. We focused on stylized hair with polygon geometry and mesh geometry. So this time, we're going to just continue on, same techniques, and do the clothing, okay? So let's go ahead and select all of our objects, set 1 on the keyboard to disable smooth preview, and let's go ahead and start modeling the clothes. So the clothing here, we want to set our object to live, and as you can imagine, we're going to use quad draw again. So there's actually a couple different things, different ways you can do it again. You can use quad draw, you can duplicate the mesh and kind of work from there. Again, whatever works for you is fine. All right, but I like the quad draw tool. It's just so fast and efficient, and we can focus on topology and edge flow. So what I'm doing now is just kind of creating the shirt loop. So I'm going to just do this loop and go around our character's neck here and back. Okay. And you can see that I'm just doing this loop going all the way around. And what I am going to do is just quickly, because I forgot to enable symmetry at the beginning, no big deal. We'll just select the vertices at the line of symmetry, scale them, and use grid snap to snap them to the 0 grid. And we will go ahead and select them now. Shift right click and go ahead and find mirror. And mirror is going to use the last settings. So I'll actually open up the settings so you can see them. Our mirror axis is right off the x-axis, so go simply apply and set them to merge borders. And yeah, and then we're good. So hit Q to exit the tool, close that, and we can go back, select our character, live surface, select our shirt, and continue quad drawing. Great. So we have this here, and what we can do is continue to model the shirt geometry. So I'm going to just kind of go down, and instead of going down in all directions, I'm going to kind of add one, control left click there. And what I'm going to do now is use that to extrude out on the character. Okay. So we can go ahead and add another one. So we're going to create a set of a face loop that's going around the arm. So you can kind of see how I'm using this to extrude out, and then now I can go ahead and create this this loop of faces. And make sure not to attach it here. We're going to just separate it and continue on. Okay. And we will go ahead and add that geometry. We go, right? Again, so make sure you got a nice clean face loop here, all right? And from there, I can finish extruding back towards the rest of the shirt. Now, what, may be good is, if you wanted to cut in another set of edges, but I think we're fine. Let's just keep moving. So I'm gonna keep extruding back. There we go. All right. So again, this is going to be fairly tight on our character. And if I actually go down here, yeah, it's going to go down a little bit below his pelvis, which is great. No big deal. And I'm also tab and drag, so I can just drag these ones here. All right. I'm actually not going to continue to left click and do that on the character. What I want to do is just drag these faces, because you'll see why in a second, right? Because if I keep using the control click, boom, right, it's going to conform to his body, which I don't want, because this is a large shirt. Again, looking at a reference, this is a large baggy shirt. Okay, so we're just using quad draw to really just get the main form, to get our face loop, to get our topology, and we're able to build off that. And of course, I went ahead and forgot to do symmetry again. So don't worry, I just went ahead and did that, and we'll just keep going, okay? And quad draw and turn on symmetry, world X, and here we are. Okay, and we can see again it's a t-shirt, so it runs to about his elbow, this large baggy shirt. And what I can do is actually just select this, and instead of using quad draw, press W and move. Okay, oops, we want to make sure, of course, our live surface is on and grid snap is off. And we can select this again and shift move. Look at that. So now we can actually use the regular Maya manipulation tools to be able to get what we need here. So I'm going to move that there. So about right where his elbow is and where it is in the reference, okay? And again, I'm pretty happy with this. So what I want to do now is just take this, Control 1, disable live surface, and this is our shirt. Okay, now we're going to add more geometry. All right, so I do want to give this a different color, so I will assign a new material, Fong, so we can make sure that it's not clipping, and we'll just give it kind of that pale blue that matches the reference there. You can, of course, eyedrop, and boom, there we go. No need to do anything else. Okay, so now that we have this, let's go ahead and now with, again, live surface disabled, is start now to do vertex manipulation and form manipulation. The first thing that we want to do is move this out and transform the components. You could select all the vertices, press W, control middle mouse, and just move that until you're happy with it. Control middle mouse, move that. The other thing you can do is, we may have used it before, but shift right click and use transform. And let's see if it's here, or maybe I have to do it in vertex mode. So let's go to vertex mode here, select all the vertices, shift right click, there it is, transform component. So find transform component, and then now you can be, if you want, even more precise. Okay, so we can be more precise there, and you can see that the topology doesn't match one-to-one. That's completely fine. It's going to allow the shirt to, conform over the geometry a little bit differently, and then we can add things as we go. So I'm actually going to select this for delete it. I actually created an extra one. And now, since I moved that with transform component, like I said, if you wanted to, you can jump here to move vertex, which is transform component, and maybe set, a different value there, but 0.5 is fine. So back to our front view here, and I can press W, control middle mouse, and look at that. I'm just moving that on the normal, and we're going to double check from the side, make sure it doesn't look too much like a dress, and we're going to scale that in now. There we go, and we can go ahead and start moving that down to kind of conform to, our reference. And we're just going to move some vertices down, and you'll notice I didn't add a ton of vertices here, right? Because I want to get the main form of the shirt done first. Oops, yeah, a little bit of discrepancy here with the reference. I will just probably use perspective here for that, and just make sure that the width and everything is good. So I think we're okay here. Down a little bit, so curves up. And again, just moving some things around. All right, that should be fine for now. And if I'm happy here, I can go ahead now and select these inner vertices here, the next set of vertices on the shirt, control middle mouse, right? So we're just now refining and moving things even more on the normal, okay? And it's kind of that same technique, move it out on the normal in one reference and then continue to do that in other view, okay? Making sure we're not clipping, good. And we can just control middle mouse, bring that up, and we're just going to continue to, modify and manipulate some vertices. In this instance, we do have to add another edge for sure, because it is very low poly. So I'll use my multi-cut tool and double click that we're just going to move that out. Okay. So you can kind of see how I'm just using the regular tools here, and we're just moving some things out on the normal. And I'll probably do the same thing here. Control slide. And move that here. And instead of multi-cut, we can grab our insert edge loop tool. Verify our tool settings have insert with edge flow on, which is great. It does. And boom, add that in there. And continue to move geometry. Right? And I think we're looking good. Okay. All right, yeah, and it doesn't need to be perfectly clean and straight, right? This is a shirt. We are going to move some geometry around, make it look a little bit more natural. I am going to also explore other techniques. I can maybe show you guys how to use cloth simulation to get some good detail out of here. But there we go, that's looking good. And we can multi-cut again. Just kind of add that in there around the middle and bring that in just a bit, right? I'm not bringing it down to the body. We're just using our reference again as a guide. And, you know, multi-cut, maybe control middle mouse button here and here. And we will just that to get the overall form. Great. So we can kind of taper this in to get a nice natural, more natural looking form. There you go. Okay, bring this in maybe a little bit. And there's a chest. Video here. And we can go ahead and select this geometry here across the chest. Continue to adjust the form. And maybe control slide that. All right. Now, like I was saying, if you wanted to add in another edge loop here around the shoulder, you can. And I'll show you that real quick just so you can add topology later. So you can multi-cut. And what we can do is kind of start from here and watch this. You can just cut through these faces here. It's going to give you some triangles, no big deal. And I actually didn't do this in Quadro, so I can show you this technique just to add holding lines, right? Because I don't want to just add it here on the inside. And there. Okay, so what I did was I went ahead and added this edge loop here. But because I did that, right, because I didn't want to add it here, I wanted to hold it here on the outside. Now I can simply go to where I have these triangles or these edges and merge, collapse the center. Boom. So you can do that on all of these edges here and vertices there. Okay, and then we can select this next set of edges and look at that. We now have more geometry to help support the form of the shirt and help in this area, because we're going to need that for areas of deformation. Okay, and I will go ahead now at this end of the sleeve and really move that up just on the normal. Control middle mouse, right, is all I used, and just move these in position. This, get a little bit more organic look, and we can of course bring this down here to kind of match the sleeve. And I'm doing this with not a lot of geometry, which is the whole point. And then I can add the form as I go. Okay, so make sure this looks okay. Okay, and if I bring our character back, right, so that's kind of what he's looking at. Like, I will probably select this and just scale it a little bit here. We can also make it a little bit longer. And of course, like, we also want to make sure that this is going to hang off, right? We're giving the illusion that's hanging off of our character. Okay, and just kind of moving some things here. And what I am going to do is we definitely need one more edge. So I'm going to grab our insert edge loop tool and let's just boom, add it right here in the middle. That's going to help give us a lot of form there. And we're adding as we go. And I'll do one more here. So if I move this back, edge back, and just kind of, again, spacing some things out, I'll go ahead and go to edge mode and insert edge loop tool, and we'll go ahead and add it right about there. Great. Right along that seam line, because that's going to help actually later when we unwrap this character, is because we want natural seam lines of where we would typically find them. So having it there running down your natural seam line is perfect. Okay. And we're just moving good old, simple stuff here with the vertices. And I'll go ahead and grab, let's see what insert edge loop tool wants to do here. Yeah, that's not too bad. Again, kind of help maintaining form. That's great. And we can kind of, again, move some vertices. Really make sure this shirt's like large and baggy on our character. All right, so far so good. Just again a combination of cutting and vertex manipulation and all that good stuff. So I'm gonna move this down. This again, we're just spacing out even distribution of edges, and keep in mind we're going to get to the point where if we want to simulate this, we're going to need to make sure that we have enough geometry to do that. So subdivides is going to help with that for sure, smoothing. And I think we're good here. All right. This edge here actually is coming back a little bit too far in. I'm going to actually control backspace to delete that. And in this case, I'm going to just straight multi-cut in and then move that in. So again, just a combination of some things we're doing on our character, and then of course multi-cut to connect these 2 points. All right, and if I control right click, harden edge, just so we can kind of see the form, just kind of fix up some of these edges here. That's looking good. Even distribution. Great, that's looking good. Simple forms. If you wanted to continue to refine and add, you can. So you can kind of see how we're slowly getting to this area here. We're getting a little bit of clipping here. So that's why I changed the color of the shirt so we can really see how it looks. And I think we're making some good progress there. I can bring these up. And a little bit right, and just kind of helping the overall shape. Okay. Now, and if I smooth preview that, let's take a look. I think that's fine. It's looking a little flat from this angle here. I mean, I know our chest is gonna kind of angle in. That's fine. Okay, great. And let's go ahead now and really kind of space out this sleeve and get a little bit more geometry there. So I'm going to grab insert edge loop tool and add one more here right in the middle. Really help that. Good even distribution, good edge flow, and all just kind of working together. I'm going to move this up just to help with the curvature. Great, I think we're good here. And what we can do now is go and do our pants. It's going to be very similar. I'm going to go ahead and actually delete the history on this while we're at it, on the shirt. And for the pants here, it's going to be essentially the same exact thing. We're going to want to make sure to maintain good edge flow. So we're going to essentially need this area here. So what I'm going to do actually is duplicate our mesh. So instead of using quad draw, we'll do another technique. Okay. So all I did was just duplicate the mesh, and I will go ahead now and just kind of marquee select our character. And look at that. That essentially, again, we could have done that here, but we're gonna have to clean up some geometry. But yeah, hopefully you get the idea. We can take this now, and if I hold shift marquee select, you can just delete them, right? It's a little bit cleaner than using duplicate face or extract. And I'm going to shift P to unparent that so we actually see it here. And what I'm going to do is go back to our character, and looks like I over selected some things. So I'm going to go back to that selection. Boom. Go. Always double check that, but we didn't go too far, so that's fine. Grab those pants and assign favorite material, a thong. And I'm going to just simply eyedrop this color here to about there. All right, and control 1, perfect. So what I want to do now is jump to the side view again, and I'm going to do shift right click, transform, right? So just like last time. So this is going to, oh, remember we have to go to vertex mode for transform. So shift right click, transform, and we're going to move this out in the Z. So let's see, so we can see that a little bit more. Look at that. So this time I'm foregoing quad draw, and we're just using existing geometry. So this is great. What I want to do, because it's pants, is actually, you know, maybe remove some geometry. We're going to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to actually remove this kind of butt geo here. And kind of running across here. I'm going to actually leave that one there. Control backspace running across. Okay. And I'm going to double. So I'm just removing these edges there. Okay. Now that leaves us with this. Please be mindful. You don't want these n-gons. No big deal. What we're going to do is jump to edge mode, insert edge loop tool, add one right about here. Whoops. Yeah, that is going to be running all the way across there. So what I want to do is actually split this first, multi-cut, split this across like this. And I'm going to do some edge rerouting so you can kind of see why this is a little bit different. Maybe if I had a little bit cleaner geo, it wouldn't have been so bad. But I'm going to just route that. I added this edge here. So I split this running across here. Great. I'm going to take this one, control backspace, and then now multi-cut, split this right across. Look at that. Just by simply, all this is called is rerouting edges. Okay. That's going to give us nice clean geometry. I'm looking, you know, for our pants, and we still have, you know, the pelvic area. We still have this area. And of course I do need to connect some edges here. And it looks like multi-cut. I had World X on, but symmetry wasn't working all that well. You can see some weird things happening here. So, no big deal. We'll just simply delete. And the nice thing is everything's already symmetried. So I can just do a mirror. Boom. Keep moving. Barely anything slowing us down. We can set our symmetry back to World X, and we're back to business. Okay, so again, here we are. Nice clean topology. Let's say you wanted to, again, add some more geometry. You can. No, just space some things out. But I think we're good. I think we got plenty of detail here. And we can just take this bottom edge for the pants and just kind of move this. Now be careful. Don't extrude it so much that it crosses the line of symmetry. We do have to keep it off. The pants aren't symmetrical, clothes aren't symmetrical, no big deal. I'm not too worried about that. But I think we're doing fine. Okay, because what I can do is kind of select these ones here on the outer portion and really scale those up and keep, you know, essentially if you had like a belt, so control 1, and I'm going to hide our shirt. And look at that. So we just have our pants here. We can scale this in. Excuse me. Control middle mouse. Move that in on the normal. That'll be fine there. And then we can bring these in. And just kind of slowly taper that out. Great. So that's looking good. You can see we can kind of move some things around. And we're getting these large baggy pants for the character. And we can just simply really just kind of move these out, right? And the front view kind of more closely match our reference. Okay. And bring these in a little bit on the inner portion. And the good thing is, again, we're going to have an inseam that runs here on the inside and on the outside, just like we would in real life, right? So those are going to help. Again, make sure you have at least those two edges running on the outside and on the inside for later when we do UVs. Okay, so there, I just kind of moving some vertices around, getting the main large form here, and we can just continue to space out our edges. Look at that, things are looking pretty good. It's a little bit, you know, seems like a little bit too planar from the front, and looking at it from the side, just boom, scale it out a little bit, no big deal. Okay. All right, so that's looking good. And we're just kind of, you know, it's flaring out towards the bottom, which is why we're just moving these vertices. And that's why, again, I don't add geometry until I'm pretty much set and we're happy with the overall edge flow. Or I should say the overall form, and then we can add edge flow as we see fit. All right, that's looking good. Cool. So you see how we use two different techniques. I'll control one. Oops. So select that shirt, Shift H. That brings that back. Look at that. Looks very similar to our reference. It's pretty close. I can actually select that bottom and control middle mouse, move that out a little bit. And again, but I think we're good. Maybe that was a little bit much, but I think we are making good progress. So yeah, there's some cleanup, some stuff that needs to happen, but I'm not too worried about it. That can always happen after. I will show you a quick thing. Like, you can see that he actually has a dual layer here. So what you can do, I like using this technique here, where you select an edge loop like this. So we're essentially going to create modeled geometry, or we're going to create a modeled seam. Okay, and shift right click. Let's bevel this bad boy. Boom. Fraction, set it to like maybe 0.1. This is going to be a tight seam, right? And then segments 2. Look at that. And then what I can do is simply now select this edge and control middle mouse, and look at that. Okay. Move that on the normal slightly, and what I can then do is select this geometry here. Okay, and grow that selection to right about that seam that we created right here. And we're going to give that, let's give it the same color as the pants. So that was actually the latest material I created. So that was Fong 7. And there you go. And then now you can look at it. We've essentially gave him a nice collar there. And remember, we're doing smooth preview. So if I smooth preview the body, that works too. Okay. Now, there are a couple other things that we could do, right? One, for sure, let's actually finish off our sleeves. And what I want to do is Control E, extrude. We're going to move this in quite a bit. So minus 0.5, minus 0.5. And we're going to move that in to the inside of the arm. So we're going to now shift move, right? So you can see how I'm using the different extrudes, right? Now it looks like a mess, no big deal. Press W, control middle mouse, and move that on the normal. Look at that. We now brought that in, and it's gonna clip, no big deal, with our arm. And that's just gonna help us give some closed geometry where, you know, it kind of eventually gets in, closes off that sleeve so we're not seeing a hole there, okay? And if you want, you can also, you know, multi-cut, add one more here, and maybe move this one out a little bit so it doesn't look like it's tapering too much in. So you get something like that versus that. Great. And a little bit of cleanup, a little bit of triage here. No big deal. Awesome. That's looking good. And we're going to do the exact same thing here at the bottom. Okay. And what I actually want to do before I do that for the bottom is grab Insert Edge Loop tool and maybe add in a couple more edges here. And just space that so they're a little bit more even. Great. Whoops. Yeah, we actually got to do the same thing with the shirt here. So I'm going to Control E to extrude. Create that lip. I'm going to keep it consistent and do -0.5. Boom. And now I'll just switch to my move tool, hold shift and move that right up in the Y. And we're going to do W. Boom. Move that in on the normal and a combination actually since it's a little bit more oblong. And I'll scale that in. See that? Look at that. So we get some nice, you know, it's not duplicating the geometry entirely. We're going to save on some poly, save on some texture space. So that's great. We're going to do the same exact thing here on the pants. Okay. Control E. We're staying consistent, -0.5. And we're going to jump to our front view. This. And we can actually maybe do another extrude, right? So extrude again, extrude edge. And move that up in the normal. This actually works pretty nice because that extrude works pretty nice in this instance. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of scale that in where we get it. A little bit awkward here. Just trying to get that right view. Kind of getting it where it's positioned nicely on the leg. That works. And then I can, of course, add jump to edge, add a multi-cut, add one in there about halfway, and move that out on the normal. So it doesn't look like, right? Because I know that we're never going to get this angle here, you know. So as long as it holds up well, kind of staying low and then looking around the character, I think we'll be okay. And we can always texture some things and adjust that later if need be. Whoops, missed some polys here on some edges here on the back of the shirt. No big deal. Let's just move that in. Great, so that's looking good. That's looking good. And I like where we're at. There are some things that we can do if you wanted to, you know, go through and add in manual wrinkles, you know. You would, so if I hit smooth preview, you can kind of see how things are looking. Good. So if I wanted to, you know, change some things where, you know, I'm going to hit 1, grab our multi-cut and maybe cut in. Actually, what I need to do is disable symmetry because if I want to add wrinkles, we definitely don't want them symmetried, right? So if I go here, you can see I can just maybe add in some cuts like this. And maybe even split that there, right? And what I'm going to do, and I can remove that edge. If you wanted a wrinkle now, oops, I gotta make sure to get rid of these floating verts. You can split them. I apologize, I messed that one up. What I meant to do was this here, split this in the middle of the face and then go to the edge here, okay? So we can keep all quads and select this geometry, control middle mouse, look at that, and move that in, and maybe kind of taper it, maybe bring some of these up towards the end. And what's the point of this? Well, now if I smooth preview, or if I look at the mesh, I can harden edge, right? It's gonna allow us, look, it's gonna allow us to manipulate and make it look like it's wrinkled, right? Here's another example, right? If we take a look at our reference, we can see we have some stuff here running down the sleeve, you know. I can maybe now go in and do some triangles here and grab my multi-cut tool again and split this in the middle. Boom. So now I'm left with this kite quad, this shape here. Move that in, move that up, and boom, move that down on the normal. And take a look at that. Right? It gives us this subtle little wrinkle, and you can do a combination of that, right? So again, if I wanted to do that kind of running down this pant leg, I can go here, split this, you know. Keep in mind, it is going to dirty up your geometry a bit, so you would want to duplicate it before doing this. But we may, you know, end up doing some simple things like just texturing some wrinkles in, honestly. So this is one of the older school ways of adding some wrinkles. I'm going to undo that, but just so if you wanted to have some fun and play with some things, definitely duplicate before you do that. But all in all, I'm happy with the geometry that we have. And I'll actually just go ahead and delete these last sets of verts, or edges I should say, and get this last floating one here, backspace. Remember to delete edges and verts together, control backspace. To delete only the edges, backspace. Or if you leave a floating vert here, like this, in this case, right? Select and backspace. But typically you almost always use control backspace. Okay, here we are, you guys. I'm liking where things are at. You can, of course, if I wanted to select the gloves, boots, we can control, just shift right click, assign new material, Fong, and let's give these boot colors here. Something like this. Yeah, maybe a little bit darker. I think that'll be good. And our character now, we can just give him skin color. I think right now that's set to Fong 1. So I can do assign new material or assign favorite Fong. Either way it works. And we can hit just kind of the skin color. All right. Look at that. So here's where we're at. And then of course we can grab all the clothing, boots, and make that a group now. And we can call this, clothing group, GRP. Keep things nice and clean. We have our main character group, which is the character's face and eyes. And I'm liking where things are at. So we can select everything here, delete history, and be careful of freeze transforms on the hair. If you have an iteration, maybe duplicate the hair, because if you don't, you guys, it's going to reset your transforms. So just be careful of that, which means that you won't have those nice angled positions. So duplicate them, don't freeze transforms on the hair. But if you did, then just simply freeze transforms, duplicate. And there we are. We're making really good progress. Character's looking good. He's coming together really nicely. And he's looking really natural. Okay, so if you got any questions or comments, put them down below. But in the next tutorial, yeah, we're probably going to just knock out these goggles and then the hammer, and then we're going to get into some unwrapping. All right, so with that, really excited, guys. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Thanks. Bye.